It's starting to feel like a classic at this point. Japan has been improving a lot this last couple of years, and Indonesia has just been the stable powerhouse that you always expect to be there. Like, you aren't really sure every year how far Indonesia is going to make it this time, but they're always there, at least to go into the conversation. Okay, this is a team that could easily get to finals, at the very least.
Yeah, Indonesia has some of the most like late game strength. They scale really well into the higher pools. And Japan as well, as you said, this is one of their most exciting teams in a long time. I would say since around like, what was it, 2020 when they made top 2. So both teams have a really massive chance to make it later on into the finals, into even, you know, further and beyond. I think podium is something of a potential, but they'll have to win this match first to even get a chance. And we're getting right into the rolls, it looks like here. Very strong roll from Crew K.
I mean, if they get this high into their scores as well, that they probably have it down, but we'll have to see. Indonesia still has to roll, apparently, to decide who gets the first protect and the first van. That's a 16, so not good enough. I believe that means that Japan is going to get the first protect. And actually, is it that true? I'm not confused. But regardless of who gets it first, do we have any doubts that Japan is going to protect an SV map?
No, they have to protect. SV protect from Japan is guaranteed because an SV ban from the other team is also guaranteed. So Japan are going to be protecting the SV map they want to play more, and it's actually going to be SV1, the one we've seen less of, and actually the one that I assume most players are probably a bit less comfortable on, so I kind of understand the protect there.
Yeah, so do I. And I think if I'm Indonesia, I'll probably want to avoid Cosmos Station as well, so maybe that could be another BAM if you practice enough of Cyber Thunder Cider, although I don't think you can assume you can beat Japan on an SV map. At this point, if you're Indonesia, probably best to consider protecting one of the hybrids, perhaps one of the long nodes. Maybe Astra Walkthrough could be a good protect by Indonesia this time around, but mostly trying to target this historical Japan weakness on LNs, which honestly, this year is looking like one of their strengths rather than one of their weaknesses. But then you see Rise 2 from last weekend, and they had the best score on the entirety of the tournament on it, so I'm not sure.
Now, they don't have a weakness anymore. That's the real scary thing here. And we're getting the expected SV2 ban. Indonesia did protect Upload Your Mind, Download My Soul, which is the hybrid pick, which I think that does kind of make a fair bit of sense if you look at, you know, the leaderboards, how the teams have performed so far, at least. Oh, wait, hang on. That's an interesting ban from Japan.
I honestly kind of like it. I think that Japan wants to avoid this sort of speedy-oriented picks, like, because they're just so easy to choke. And I think Japan understands that in this matchup they have the overall better accuracy, but they may be confused, whereas their physical capabilities are up there to compete with Indonesia's late game. I think they are, but they probably want to avoid those kind of battles, so bans like Gypsophila or even Nisemono would make sense in my eyes. Everything else, I think Japan's accuracy just overpowers Indonesia's late game scaling capabilities. But they're just going for a lens, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, okay, Astra Walkthrough is going to be the first pick, and an interesting one here. Seeing Japan first pick LN, especially the LN coordination pick, is not something I expected to see if you told me that, you know, 2-3 years ago. But here it is.
Absolutely. I will call you crazy if you're telling me, hey, Japan just first picked LN1 against any team that isn't, I don't know, Japan 2.
Just any team, just straight up. Yeah. There is no team that was as, you know, lopsided in their skill sets as Japan was a few years ago. But now, as you said, one of their strengths now really is this LNs, and it's thanks to, you know, these new players coming in, 9990 and Ice Cake, rounding out their roster really well for the LNs. But Indonesia actually has been no slouch at all. Actually, one of the LN picks last week, I believe Indonesia did actually beat Japan on in team score. So this is not going to be a free win by any means, I don't think.
I don't think. If you're thinking about LN2, which was AO Infinity, there was literally 600 points between Japan and Indonesia. So LNs are going to be an intense battle. We haven't seen Indonesia play the coordination pick last weekend, but we've seen them playing LN3, and they had the best score as well in the entirety of the tournament. So these two teams are very well capable of holding their ground with LNs. And LN1 is just kind of a question mark. Japan had a really, really good score last weekend, but they have no idea how good Indonesia can perform on this. And if I have to place my bets, I'll say Indonesia is going to be very, very good at this.
Yeah, you have to imagine Indonesia would be fairly comfortable, at least as far as the combo is concerned. I just want to note, just for some people in the chat, the name Nisha Labyrinth is something that I didn't realize as well before the match, but it is actually Adiza, name changing 2 days ago. So definitely one of the really strong players on Indonesia coming in here for the LNs. But I'm looking mostly towards the Japanese side, particularly in Ice Cake and Crew K. We know these two players are very strong when it comes to the LN release accuracy in particular. Maybe that's why they picked this one first.
And there we go, ladies and gentlemen, hold your mates, because it's about to start. Japan versus Indonesia, pick number 1 by Japan, Astra walkthrough. And they want to start with the right foot, although I will say this is a pretty contested pick. I'm not sure if this is my favorite that Japan could have made, but we'll see if it works out.
That said, I can't really think of too many picks that I would confidently say Japan always wins. I don't think either team has many picks like that, but here we go, starting off with a little bit of a shaky start from 999-0 compared to the rest of the field. Small 1,000 point lead for Indonesia, but that should not last.
And as we get into the crazy Chris Adderland patterns, this kind of structure that is very, very high in terms of density and really, really punish you if you're not coordinated enough. And that's exactly what happens to 9990, who had a rough start at the intro with the accuracy department, now dropping combo as well, giving a 10,000 point lead in the favor of the Indonesians. And now with a trade from Ontavekasi, things are gonna get into equilibrium once more. But I think the accuracy overall seems to be in favor of the right side here.
Yeah, definitely Indonesia with the AC lead. Most of that coming in the difference between the two players with the misses. Ontavekasi beating 999-0 by about 0.2%. That's most of it. The other 4 players fairly similar, but Bad HD player, Ice Cake actually finding another miss for Team Japan. That's only Crew K, the last one on the full combo. Indonesia gonna start building up a bit of a lead halfway through the map.
Lead will probably not be getting a little bit much higher than this. 10,000 points seems to be the average gap we're gonna see in this LN map for the most part. And as long as no more misses happens, well, and as I'm saying, classic Labyrinth miss here. And things are getting again back into equilibrium mode with a slight accuracy advantage for the Indonesians. This will stay on the 2,000 point mark, but with just a rush of 200s, it can easily swing to the other side. And as we're reaching the combo cap here, I'm looking at Bad HD player whose concentration is a bit early, and there is the miss.
Oh my god, how do you do it twice in one map? That's going to turn it towards Japan. Crew K, the only full combo left in this map. And it's going just by a little bit, 3,000 points the lead. Japan now actually having a little bit of an AC, well, not really a lead actually, the AC is tied.
It is exactly tied, but the map is almost over, and with no misses happen now, it's only 2,000 points in the favor of the top seeded here, and it will not flip at the end, even though a couple 200s happen on 999 side. It will be a victory for the pickers here, and what a clutch though.
That was not the first pick that Japan may have wanted in the end. There are a few misses from both sides, perhaps feeling the nerves here, but all's well that ends well here. 2,000 points is the lead for Japan, and they managed to take their first pick.
Wow. I mean, I just take a break of commentary for 2 rounds, and then this happens. I don't know what to say.
You've built up the curse power, ready to unleash it on this map.
I mean, okay, I got to be fair though. Bad HD player was certainly rushing those patterns a little bit, and as I started to see a bit of a regular 300 spring, I mean, it was bound to happen, and that's just what happens in coordination picks. Once you start deviating from the center, you can just easily drop anywhere. You start to try to adjust your timing in order to hit those juicy 300 Gs, and you just miss. And that's so normal. It happens all the time, and unfortunately happened at the moment that mattered the most. The Indonesians here, who are gonna go for calculator, trying to get their momentum back. Because if they started with a breakpoint against team number 3, Japan, who's promising to be one of those teams that we are likely going to see at the very least on the winners finals, now Indonesia is certainly proving to be a fight, and in the quarterfinals no less.
Yeah, this is looking like a very close matchup for sure. Indonesia, they're feeling comfortable with the hybrids. They've been performing one of the best teams on some of the hybrids last week. So I think this makes a lot of sense as long as they're comfortable on it, but it is a very short map, so individual chokes are going to matter even more than they did on the previous map. We're actually seeing a few swap outs from Japan, interestingly enough, Kruke being swapped out here. I do understand JH Lead Girl coming in, definitely one of the very strong players on Japan that is capable of playing pretty much every map.
So the thing with JH Lead Girl is, I mean, I remember back then that used to be the combo guy, and in a map that is this short, you kind of want the combo guy in your team because any choke will make such a difference.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if we're seeing Kruke come back in. I would expect Kruke to be playing most maps just due to the the sheer level of accuracy and just consistency across the board that he has. But Ice Cake, okay, Ice Cake coming back. One of the LN players. I guess that makes a lot of sense. So they've picked their players here, and Indonesia staying with the same roster they had with the LNs.
And now as we're going to start with pick number 2, Indonesia wants to recover from the initial very close breakpoint. And honestly, if they can just win their picks, this should be fine for them regardless. We'll see if hybrid 3 is the kind of thing Indonesia is looking for. It's, again, one of those picks that you're not very sure which team is on top. But considering that Japan is keeping this LN roster and so is Indonesia, I will expect this map to go, well, kind of similar to what we saw last time, and I see already an early mistake just before hitting the combo cap again from Labyrinth, and that opening is going to be in favor of Japan once more.
Yeah, but the accuracy is being actually kept fairly good for Indonesia, and that's a miss for JH Lead Girl right there. That looks like the act drop as well is going to flick things back over to Indonesia, who now has the accuracy lead.
And the combo man cannot hold combo this time around, but a trade once more by bad HD player will give the lead back to Japan's hands. And even though the accuracies are looking quite close, Indonesia seems to be taking a bit of a hit with the misses here as bad HD player is trying to recover onto the range of JH Lead Girl. There's still more missiness on the Indonesian side, and this is the problem when you have an LN roster that starts to struggle a little bit with the rise. Most of the misses we have seen on Indonesia are on these tricky bursty patterns, and that's completely understandable when you have long-nose specialists. Those are the patterns that are going to make you choke, and on a hybrid, that's exactly what you would expect. And unfortunately, it's not happening to Japan if you're Indonesian, that is. But with 2 full combos, I mean, extremely good accuracies as well.
But you say LN roster, but the only LN player on Indonesia is actually the one that's holding the full combo still. So under Bagasi, the one that switches in for the LNs, and it looks like now Japan with a very strong lead, but this is the end section. It gets a bit faster here. Wonder if we're seeing any chokes coming out from either side, but Japan have a bit of a buffer.
They definitely have a big buffer here with 15,000 points. There's not enough time, really, and Japan will take the first breakpoint and complete similar scenario. Well, not necessarily. I think this time Japan just won more convincingly, but both points were very contested at certain amount of time, right? Indonesia at the start, had they not missed, they were holding the better act. And if you see the result right now, the 200 counts is in favor of Indonesia as well. It's mostly just about the misses.
Yeah, basically entirely about the misses. You can see the accuracy basically dead even between the two teams. Take away the misses from Indonesia and they definitely would have taken that point. But it is Japan moving to a 2-0 advantage, and they get to pick next. The thing is, though, Japan only have one pick that I think is very safe, obviously being the SV map that's up. All of the LNs and the hybrids, and the Rice. Oh, okay, we're seeing LN3 being picked. They decide to double down on the LNs despite that first map.
I was about to say, I hate this pick. I don't like this at all. I think this was the perfect time for an SB1 pick because you're forcing Indonesia's hands to pick something they may not be so sure about. Like LN3 is the map that Indonesia is extremely good at, always, every time. And I think this is not going to be an exception to that matter. And considering how close LN1 was, I don't think this is an Indo pick. I'm very surprised Japan is going for this.
Yeah, this is a very interesting one. I guess Japan, they just really don't want to be facing Indonesia's Rice, but I mean, Indonesia's LN is really scary. We just saw it just then. They had the advantage in the first map.
Like, I think had you not wanted to go for SV1 at this point, Hybrid 1 was probably the pick to go for if you don't want to risk Rice, that is. Like, Rice would be probably too risky, especially if you're winning 2-0, you don't want to lose a breakpoint. You would rather have Indonesia be the one making the hard calls. And with LN3 out of the way now, I mean, Indonesia can just break points at you, and that's exactly what you want to avoid. You want more info, I think, at this matchup. But well, we'll see. If we base ourselves on the previous round, Indonesia takes this, but with the scaling, we'll see if that holds true.
We do know Indonesia's very good with the scaling. Oh, that is a bad start for JH League. A couple of misses. Gonna be okay eventually, though, managing to bring up the accuracy fairly fast. But, oh, hang on a second. The accuracy for Indonesia is not holding on very well at all. So it's Japan, despite the early miss from JH League Girl, managing to keep even in the score.
You're seeing Albert joining here for Indonesia, and that may be part of the factors as of Indonesia struggling a bit with accuracy, but they're certainly coming back at it, and the scores are just flickering back and forth. Despite the early miss from JH Lead Girl, Japan still holding strong and not messing up on those mini jacks. Arguably the hardest part to combo through the map. It's the classic toe fashion with the LNs being extremely difficult to read and like just hit through. But the scores are just rushing back and forth every time. If you compare the accuracy, I think there's a ever so slightly advantage to Indonesia, and that singular miss by JH Lead is proving to be the difference between these two. But I mean, we're just gonna have to wait until some action happens. We have to see a couple 200s at the very least to see which team is really on top at this point. And on those transitions, both teams are equally dropping accuracy back and forth, and there's no misses still.
Oh, JH Ligo finds a little bit of an act drop again, but it's traded back. It's going back and forth still. We're at the last third of the map just about, but Albert, that's a big miss. Dropping an accuracy as well. 7,000 points immediately in favor of Japan. And still basically 5 full combos on the board.
Bad HD player and Ice Cake both certainly being the carries here for each team, and they are not missing. It will probably come to them, but there's a miss. But Bad HD player not the miss they were looking for, as Japan extends this lead. 16,000 points now, and I don't see them losing this anytime. A quarter of the song remaining, and with another miss from Arvid, Indonesia is just collapsing as the map pool seems to be a bit too difficult compared to last week. And Japan just proving that the scaling power is too strong, at least on the LN department, it seems.
Yeah, they've managed to find their consistency. They've found their combo here. Ice Cake finding a few 200s there. Not going to matter at all, though, as we're at the very outro. And it is going to be Japan with, I mean, I think you can call this an honorary 3-way FC. JH League Girl messing up the very first pattern, but it is going to be a very strong team score for them.
This is what I call a 2.9-way FC.
2.9.
I mean, don't take Onta out of the equation either, right? They were very, very close to be the top scorer as well. It's just on the 200s. And we are seeing Bakamitai instantly going into the Rice department now. If you're Indonesia, you have to be scared because we haven't seen anything between these two teams when it comes to the Rice. And this is one of those picks that's hard to make, but at some point it had to be made. You lost 2 LNs, you lost on the hybrid that you thought you had the best chance. There's still a protect available, but I think this is a pretty good option. At this point, if you win Bakamitai, you can force Japan into picking SVs, and you have the options. If you win this, you can go for Frums, you can go for Break the Silence, I will assume. And I mean, if you lose, you just lose. Like, there's not much you can do. Like, if you lose at everything, there isn't much strategy you can really apply to put pressure on the opponent.
I definitely feel like Indonesia have the they have some ways in for some of those LN and hybrid picks that we've seen, but now that they're 3-0 down, they're 1 breakpoint down, they do definitely want to be trying something a little bit new. The rice pool untested today, but that said, Japan do of course have their rice specialist players coming in. AM Duskia being the one, as everyone knows, a mainstay in the Japanese team.
We have this debate between AMD and Intel every year. I mean, not just in the PC department.
Unlucky that Intel isn't playing anymore for MWC,
I know. It's so sad.
We'll see how this one goes. Actually off to a very good start for Indonesia right away. JH League Girl having a little bit of an act drop, but nothing serious.
And I'm liking how this start is looking for the Indonesians, as you were mentioning. They're starting very strong with very high accuracies on every single one of their players. And this is what keeps me wondering a little bit. Now that we are seeing JH Lead accuracy being a little bit lower compared to everybody else, you start to wonder, if Indonesia can keep this up, this opens up a lot of picks on the rice department for them to go for. It's just surprising that they did not go for this earlier. Well, to be fair, this is their second point, so I don't want to be very rude with them. And they still haven't won it. There's only a 3,000 points of difference in favor of them, but you just see the accuracy from initial average, and you're like,
That's crazy. 99.9. They're all performing so well, and 9990 finding the first miss. That's going to give an even bigger lead to Indonesia. But here we go, this is the main section. Oh, another miss coming from 9990.
Imagine you're just playing this map, you have the miss, you're listening to the song, it's only fitting. But Japan is still trying their best to hold on to this. The 17,000 points of difference, and Indonesia's accuracy is just not going anywhere. Only initial average struggled a little bit at one of those very, very fast bursts. But they're just utterly and absolutely destroying this map.
Yeah, definitely, and it doesn't even matter with their accuracy anymore as long as they keep the combo. 990 finding a third miss there. It looks like this one is going to wrap up. 27,000 points the lead, and one more miss for the end, but that is going to be it. And my goodness,
I'm not going to put the blame on 999, because even with an FC, that was not Japan's point at all. Indonesia just trashed this map, like utterly destroyed. There's 2v1 double S's. Like,
oh my god,
what is wrong with you guys? And 999 had the v1 double S as well, had he not missed 4 times in the middle of the map. Very clean misses, but like I said, even with the FC here, that would have been maybe like a 992k, and that's not enough. Indonesia would have just straight up won.
It's the ratio. Look at the ratio difference. Yeah. All of Indonesia beating all of Japan, even though Japan had the better 200 counts. That's a really strong pick for Indonesia, and I think they've found their way in. I think they've found the kind of avenue that they want to be attacking later on in this match. They're not out of it yet. They're only 1 breakpoint down.
That much is true. And of course, Japan still has SVs, which is kind of, like, we can technically call this match maybe 4-1, because Japan just has the SV there to pick. It's certainly a matter of time for them to go for it. But I mean, as much as I think Japan is the best SV team in the entire tournament by a fair margin, Indonesia, I mean, can they pull up a fight?
I think Indonesia is definitely a decent SV team, but the problem is that Japan, not only are they like really good with the SV maps overall, but they have such high accuracy. We've seen such absolutely bonkers ratio on all 3 of the Japanese SV players that even if they miss, as absurd as it sounds, even when they miss and choke, they can probably still beat 3 FCs.
It's so insane. Like, the one way you can beat Japan is if they disconnect in SVs.
Oh my god. I think some teams are definitely capable of it, but I just don't know if Indonesia is one of those teams.
They're just avoiding the SVs. They just don't care. Yeah, they're going for their opponent's protect.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is what Indonesia protected. Upload your mind, download my soul. Now this is another map with littered with a lot of jacks, a lot of LNs with jacks. The combination there, which I guess that's kind of in the same vein, similar kind of patterning as the LN3 pick, which they won fairly convincingly in the combo side of things at least. I guess they're just trying to just hope that Indonesia miss as much as they have been.
I mean, if I was on Indonesia, this is the moment. This is the switch. This is the time where you have to focus all your energy, because this is the ideal world. Like, you have the information that you wanted. Now you know you can compete on Rise, and you have a fair advantage on accuracy overall, not just on Rise. I think the ratio and overall perfect accuracy from Indonesia is looking a little bit sharper than Japan's. It's just a matter of avoiding chokes. And in a map that you protected, this is the kind of map you can and should avoid your chokes. You need this breakpoint to get back into the game. And I think Indonesia has a pretty fair chance to just win the entire match if they win this map. That's how important this pick really is.
You know, maybe this is just Japan big braining. This is psychological warfare. This is a point that Indonesia know they have to win. They want to break point back. They want to get a bit of momentum. They want to break the point back. They want to get back into this. They know they have to win it. And Japan picks their own protect.
Kind of like throwing them off, right?
Yeah, it's like, hang on a second. Now we have to win this. Otherwise, it's going to make us look silly.
I mean, there's obviously going to be a lot of pressure involved on both sides, because Japan cannot really afford to lose this either. In typical Japanese fashion, they're saving the SV for last, as they always do, as a kind of guaranteed match point. But, I mean, can they hold on to that? If they lose this map, I don't think they can.
I think Japan can definitely lose. This is a very choke-heavy map. Indonesia, it's going to come down to Indonesia. They really need to hold on to the combos. They've struggled a little bit towards the end of, you know, a couple of the LN hybrid maps, but if they manage to hold on to the combo, they have the accuracy to be able to contest Japan's
Oh my
scores,
goodness.
That's a good start for Indonesia. 990 finding an early miss.
Come on, Albert. All the eyes are on you, my friend. We've seen Lavrin and Bad HD player performing really well on picks like this before, and Albert stepping up for the team here. If he can hold this FC, I mean, I think Indonesia just has what it takes to win this. And I mean, we are on combo cap already between every single one of the players, and it's a gap of 4,000 points in favor of Reverse Poland. No problem with the jacks over there. And as we start to enter this difficult section, we see the first miss from Indonesia, and that's Albert's side. Japan will take the lead off of that, mostly due to the accuracy drop, not just the miss.
That was a huge act drop down to 99.2, and 990 already recovering the act really well to 99.6. This is switched the lead around 4,000 points in favor of Japan, but that's not very safe lead. That can switch right back with any miss.
Here's the thing though, Albert had a couple of misses and some 200s, but now his accuracy is going up, and the accuracy from the Japanese players on the bottom section are going a bit down, whereas Bad HD and Nisha Lavrin are both just skyrocketing high, and this lead, Albeit is growing a little bit now. It was shrinking for a moment. I have to see if that trend continues. I see a couple 200s on UK, but now Arvid's gonna drop once more the ball, and with a quarter of the song remaining, Japan needs to collapse if they lose this. But otherwise, they're holding very strong.
Yeah, the lead is just growing further and further. Albert with the other miss. And the act drops as well. That's really just making the whole difference here. 4 players still with the FC. Only one very early miss from 9990. That's the entire mistake that Japan has made so far. And they're going to manage to hold it out with another one of these. You know, 2.5 FCs.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just a miss, the 2.9 FC again, because just look at how close to the combo, full combo is. Like, it's just 100 combo away. Yeah, and they have the exact same 300 count. Yeah. 2K and 9990. Wow, that's so unfortunate though. Like, Arvid's ratio is really good too. It's just that those misses are the difference maker here.
Yeah, you can see Nishan Labyrinth and Bad HD player. Those scores are incredibly high. You can see why they wanted to protect that, why they left that up in the air. But Japan's consistency right now, as far as the combo goes, has just been better. That's been the story of this match so far. Indonesia, they get their own pick, not wasting any time. Nisemono right away. I think that's a pretty good pick after what we saw on Bakamitai.
Well, I have to agree. Like, after seeing Bakamitai, you kind of want to see more physically oriented picks, and this is the only Rise pick I think that remains that is physically challenging enough for these players. Like, even though Japan had one player only choking on back Kamitai, this is the kind of map where I expect more people missing. And that can only favor Indo, right? The ratios were overall better, their consistency was overall better, and I think bad HD player and Initial Labyrinth are just a bit above the physical capabilities of pretty much every player in the Japanese team.
Yeah, we'll see if that can keep up on another one of these Rice picks here. Now, obviously, I do think this is probably one of the best of the Rice. You know, looking at the other Rice pools, the Jack map and the Jump Stream map, you know, if I say that those are the maps to pick against Japan, then, you know, the world is turning upside down.
I mean, it kind of is. We were saying, like, Japan just kind of did a full 180 on their skill sets. And even though they're still amazingly good at Rise, they just seem to be stronger at the rest. And Indo is proving this to be the case in some bits because they won only on Rise so far. And if they win this, I mean, they still just need a break point. But again, we have to consider Japan still has the SV open.
So that means that this is a must-win as well for Indonesia, because if they lose this, then Japan can immediately pick that SV pick.
And here we go again. The scores are pretty equal, but Japan being the slight favorite here.
Oh,
ever so slight. Actually, I'm not really sure. If you see the accuracies,
yeah, look at the accuracy.
The Indo is just winning, but the client doesn't seem to like that idea for some reason. And there's the miss by 9990. That's, well, a trade now from Initial Labyrinth. And it's gonna go back and forth again. The miss from Nisha was a bit less clean than 999, so I will argue Japan's on the lead now, for real, like 400 points of difference each.
Yeah, but I do think the Initial Labyrinth's accuracy is rising, but actually another miss now. That's going to give Japan a bigger lead. 9990 traded, but very clean trade from 999.
Oh, Dusky misses.
Here, finding a miss, and that is the second player from Japan missing.
And there's another one as well. 9990 misses again. And now Indus on the clear lead. 5,000 points, and still two players need to hit the combo cap before that happens. Wow. Right before the break too.
Ac lead now definitely in favor of Indonesia. 9990 and Initial Labyrinth both with the same accuracies, but Albert and a Bad HD player holding monstrous acts right now. Oh my god, it's so tense. Even though it's a 10,000 point lead, this could flip with just a couple chokes. Very possible on the map that's technical as this.
And the map is pretty backloaded as well. Like, the ending is very, very tricky. The streams, I recall, are very, very hard to hit. And that could be, I mean, again, I don't want to say it, but Ovid needs to hold through those streams. He's doing extremely well this time. 99.87. Very, very good. And so has to hold for Initial Labyrinth, the only player on Indonesia who has missed so far. If they want to take this point, that's what needs to happen. And as we're getting into this very heavy 315 streams, can they hold their ground? It doesn't seem like accuracy is dropping by any of the players, although I see some rushes from Initial Labyrinth and I'm getting scared. Will they be able to hold this lead just a little bit longer? There's the miss by Nisha.
Oh my god,
the scores are not flipping though. I don't think there's enough time, but Japan is trying the best.
The lead is shrinking ever so slightly, 3,000 points. But it ends up being Indonesia just at the end. Juan trying his best to curse the Indonesian team by naming every Indonesian player one by one, but it is not enough for Japan to take it.
That's how big of an advantage Indo had. They survived.
And that is a very strong FC from, what is that, 100 from that HD player?
I mean, just not that. Look at the ratio. Like, the ratio is ridiculous. 169 on a map this hard. It's insane.
They have the Rice Act. Japan have the Rice Act as well. It's just the misses that have really tipped the scales in that one over to Indonesia. It stays a one breakpoint match. Indonesia need to take a breakpoint at some point. We have to keep iterating it.
That's a good sign. Japan is asking for a timeout. If you're Indonesian, you are like, okay, we are putting them in a situation when they have to think about what to pick. And they still have SV open. That may mean that Japan is just considering to go to SV1 now.
I think this has to be... This is potentially the last pick that Japan has. You know, theoretically, if Japan win the next two. So, there is no way that they don't pick the SV at some point, right? So I feel like they are going to pick the SV now. If I would be very sad if they didn't, because I definitely want to see Japan play SV every week.
I mean, I'm thinking they are considering the options between Blooming and Sample Ensemble. But honestly, Blooming even is looking risky enough. I don't think they go for Heaven's Fall. Like, Heaven's Fall is the map that I see Indonesia, considering how the match has been played, is the LN map that Indonesia has a chance. Like, they couldn't win on LN1 due to very, very small issues. And Heaven's Fall is one of those maps that you're not going to have those issues. And Indo is just out accuracy in Japan, plain and straight. And if they just out accuracy on Heaven's Fall, they can maybe even afford to get a singular miss of this advantage. That's how much of an advantage I think Indonesia will have on that map. And they don't want to go for that. Japan does not want to go for Heaven's Fall here. It's, I think, a matter of Blooming or Sample. I don't think they're considering any of the right consistency picks here. I don't see them going for Edison. I don't see them going for Cosmos Station either. Like, Edison would just be at like a straight up the worst pick in the world right now, I think.
I see a weird world in which Edison is picked here. Funnily enough, it will be stupidly tense. So I don't think that Japan want that at all. You have to go for SV. You have to at least guarantee the tiebreaker right now. Put Indonesia on the back foot while Japan have the lead in the match. You can't let it creep up to 4-4 when you have this lead. So I think that now, you know, if any time, it has to be now.
You can cut the tension of this with knife, but oh my goodness. Japan's surely taking the time, trying to cool down, maybe kill the momentum a little bit from Indonesia. Which honestly, it's perfectly reasonable. Japan respecting Indonesia here, understanding that they have to be very careful what to do on the rest of the match. Because again, let's imagine this match goes to tiebreaker, right? I mean, are we sure Japan wins a tiebreaker? I don't think.
I don't think we can be entirely sure at all. I mean, we've seen Japan be better when it comes to holding combo, but I feel like Indonesia have what it takes as well if they manage to, you know, hold on just a little bit longer.
Sample Ensemble.
This was the right... I think this was absolutely the right pick now. I don't think you can afford to delay it anymore. And it is going to be Japan SV. On paper, this should be the most one-sided pick that we see in the pool.
99% to 1, I think. I will call that way. Like, yeah, that's the advantage we see on Japan. Like, Japan has the winner of SV SE, like the winner of the SV tournament, and I think the runner-up as well is Japanese.
No, wait. No. So here's the thing with Japanese team. Japan has the SVSE 1 champion in Crew K, and the 2 SVSE 2 champions in Gyoza Goki and Ice Cake. Their whole SV team are the only winners that SVSE has ever had.
That is so ridiculous.
But that said, Indonesia does have ASCII Fanboy, who I know is an extremely strong SV player. I just don't think it's going to be enough to hold off the sheer ability that Japan has as a whole.
As a full unit, yeah. I'm expecting to see Ice Cake here, right?
Oh, absolutely. There shouldn't be any other swap in here for Japan.
My goodness. Like, if you're Indo, at this point you have to be proud. You are the first team that forced Japan's SVs before they wanted to. That's an achievement. You force Japan's hand on a map that historically they, let's say it for last, to finish off their opponents. This time they have to use their silver bullet a little bit earlier than expected. And that speaks on itself of how good of a team Indonesia is, really.
Yeah, Indonesia has definitely been performing very strongly here against Japan, who is the highest seed. So, you know, on paper it is expected that Japan wins, but I do still think in this match, despite how the points have gone, Indonesia have a way back in. I don't think it's going to be on this pick, though. We'll see what ends up happening here. This is one that I think is very hard to be very comfortable with this map. With the amount of slow jam it has, it's very possible to just completely overcook
I'm gonna
pattern
quickly
dump your
quote an Indonesian commentator. I think it was, "You never know what's gonna happen,"
Oh,
or something like that.
That's a bit of a throwback.
Oh, that's very old. And now into sample assemble.
Retro EX having a little bit of a difficulty compared to the other players in the lobby, below 99%, but still holding the full combo early on.
Excuse me, is my stream lagging a little bit? Or is it just the SVs? Look at those teleports, let's go!
Oh, a miss for Onto Picasso, the first one here, drops down to 98% flat as well. And I mean, look at these Japanese.
I was about to mention that. What?
99.92 is the lowest. ASCII Fanboy with 99.78, but that's just not enough by himself here.
Oh, this is just ridiculous. I am actually mad at this. Like, there's no way they're this good.
Oh, misses coming out from Indonesia. I mean, that's it really for this pick. You cannot imagine any comeback from this point. Onto Picasso dropping down to 95%.
I mean, don't get me wrong. ASCII Fanboy score is insane. Like, that score alone would probably be the best score of like 90% of the teams that are still remaining on the tournament. And that's still not even, like, it's 0.3% away the worst score of Japan. That is so ridiculous.
Yeah, ASCII Fanboy would have been. This score is MVP level in any other match. Just straight up. This is just the gap, the chasm that exists between Japan and every other team in SV this year. 99.
Can I ask for one thing? No!
Okay.
I was about to ask for just one thing and just have a triple tie on the Japanese team between themselves. But
okay,
that's
so
here's not happening now.
Here's the one thing about Japan's SV this year. They haven't actually three-way FC'd any SV maps.
That is so ridiculous.
This is the third miss in a row. 3 rounds, 3 misses. But despite that, I mean, they're getting the best team score.
They're just flexing, right? At this point, like every time you see an SV map, they just flex.
Yeah, no team beats this.
Oh
score.
my goodness, that is so ridiculous. Even with the miss, every player is above the 980,000 points.
Oh my!
What is that ratio? Like you combine every single 300 on the Japanese team, and it's still better than 2 of the Indo players.
So, you know what I've been thinking about? What would be a fun show match is just Japan versus the entire rest of the world, SV only. Like, gather the best other SV players.
I want to think that the world has a chance to be 30,000 points away of Japan. That's how close the world is.
There's some strong players in the world. They're just on completely different teams. So, unfortunately, not enough to beat. I mean, I feel like that would be an interesting show match. But
it would.
That aside, this is now breakpoint for Japan, 5-2. So Indonesia are going to need to win 3 in a row if they want to take it to the tiebreaker. They do get 2 of those picks, theoretically.
Exactly.
So
they only need to break point once, and Japan is out of silver bullets. They don't have the SVs anymore. And as we were saying, the match was not really 4-2, it was actually 5-2, we just never told you before. And that's because of the SVs. And now that is gone, and Break the Silence is gonna be the pick that Indonesia goes for. And I don't want to get my high hopes very high, but I'm liking this pick from Indo, and I think next pick for Japan is gonna pretty much decide who wins this match. I expect Indonesia to win this pick, and I think they have everything that they need. And considering they had the time to like focus a little bit, I mean, if you're Indonesia, you kind of knew that you were losing SV1, so you could take that time to strategize instead of taking the time out. You think of what the strategy is going to look like after it. And I think Break the Silence was the perfect pick for them, so they certainly used that time properly. And if they win this, oh boy. I mean, I can already feel the nerves from every player that is playing. If Indo wins this, there's a very serious chance.
I think it's on, absolutely. And Japan, now that they're ahead by this much, they want to finish it off as fast as possible. I think every point from now on that Indonesia managed to string together in a row is just more and more advantage in the momentum, in like just the team morale that they're going to get leading into, you know, a potential tiebreaker. And this is a fairly good, as you said, this is a really good pick for them, given what we've seen. They have a really, really strong rice ratio capability.
And the fact that we're not seeing Japan.
Yeah, Japan just missing.
Yeah, it's just gone. And there's Ice Cake.
Oh, Ice Cake. Okay, interesting. Ice Cake to me is more of an LN hybrid SV player for Team Japan. But although we have seen Ice Cake play in some of the round of 32 Rice, definitely a very strong Rice player as well. We'll see who ends up being the third to come in for Japan here. Also would just like to remind all players that just played the SV to change your scroll speeds back to regular. That is not the way that I want this match to end.
Oh my god. Wait, do we even have Indo players who play the SV map?
Did they have 3 switch outs? Wait, Albert and
It was Onta, Retro X, and ASCII Fanboy.
Oh yeah, that's just 3 switching out.
Literally a 3 full switch.
So Indonesia doesn't have to worry, but just you know, Ice Cake Crew K, I'm sure they've changed it back. I'm sure that's, you know, they just had a quick leaving the lobby to change some settings. But here we go. This is pivotal point for both teams, of course. Indonesia, a must-win for every single map from now on. Japan wanting to close it out. And we've seen the Rice picks. All of them so far have been very close.
I mean, I'm already feeling nervous, so you can only imagine how nervous the players are at this point, especially the Indonesian ones. I bet this is a winner's bracket match, so nobody gets eliminated from the tournament after this match is over, but you really want to continue that winner's bracket run. Semi-finals winners, it means top 6, and that's a very, very, very good feat for any of these two teams.
Yeah, 1 win here is worth 2 in the losers bracket as well, so you're gonna save yourself some very scary matches by staying every single week you're in the winners bracket. And starting off this match, it looks like it's fairly even between both teams. The accuracy overall being matched 1 for 1 for both players, both sides.
It basically seems like AM Duskia is the only one who's pulling the accuracy a little bit behind for Japan. Albeit now climbing a little bit and stabilizing. All the Japanese players seems to be on the equal footing.
The difference maker right now is Nisha. Nisha Labyrinth is above everyone else in the lobby, 99.86.
Exactly. And this map is tech, of course, it's very techy, but it's fairly consistent too. There isn't many things that can catch you off guard if you know the song especially. There's only those triple jacks at some point that can throw you off, but otherwise this is pretty much bait for most of the players here. I think they all have the physical capabilities to just hit these patterns regularly. Like, this is just an ACK map for most of this.
But when you top on, you know, all of these nerves that you have to be feeling tournament setting in a team tournament, even simple ACK maps can end up being massive choke bait, especially when you have such, you know, technical patterns. There's mini jacks everywhere here, 3-note jacks, bursts. So much that if your fingers slip even a little bit, have
and
a little bit of
this break doesn't help at all.
Oh
like,
my god. I've seen misses in
3,000
those.
points. Okay, now into this last third of the map, which is arguably the hardest section of the entirety of the chart, mostly due to the song intensity. You don't have any more breaks until the very end, and you have those mini jacks into triples. Nobody's messing those around, and everyone is holding the combo.
Oh my god, what is happening this match? What is going on? Why is the lowest ACK 99.76? This is quarterfinals.
The map should be already pretty hard, like, come on guys. The mini jacks are scary, so scary. Every time I see one of them, I'm scared that one player would miss, but everyone's just holding their ground, and Nisha Labyrinth is leading the charge. That's the reason why Indonesia seems to be ahead right now by even more than before. And into this very last sort of break that you get, will see the deciding point at the very least right now. And it's just so little longer that Indonesia has to hold if they want to take this.
But there's no lead, there is no buffer, no mistakes can be afforded right now. And
is this a six-way B1 double SS? I think Dusky just hit a 200 over there, but otherwise, every player is destroying this. And the lead just extends off of the accuracy drops from Duskia here. And Indo will just take this. I don't think they just take this. This is a six-way FC.
Oh my god. What are we seeing? Six-way. How does 2979 lose? That's insane. Oh my god. 992K
What?
is the lowest score in this lobby. This is straight up the highest lobby performance I have seen this week.
The lowest score is 992.3. What in the world we just witnessed? Indo, I knew you had it. I knew you had the chance here on Break the Silence, but they really had to tighten the ratios as much as possible. They couldn't afford a singular mistake because this was insanely close. 5,000 points of difference. Every player above the 990,000. That's just not something you can pull out this easily. These players just make it look easy. This is not easy.
That was crazy. That's one of the longest picks in the whole pool as well. I'll add that. To have such a long technical pick with 0 misses, 0 mistakes is just absolutely ridiculous. Indonesia earning their 3rd point there, and Japan now, they've got a tough decision. They've got a really tough decision.
Do you think I will be right if I'm saying that's a team PV for both teams?
You cannot expect that to come out ever. I don't think any team would expect to get 3 full combos like that in a tournament performance.
I mean, not in quarterfinals at least. This is the kind of picks that both teams wanted to avoid, I assume, because they both expected to be very good at it and they didn't know who had the edge. It will come down to chokes. But it seems like Indo had the edge when there are no chokes involved. And I mean, I want to give credits to Albert as well, who unfortunately had been choking on previous maps and now certainly stepping up for the team, especially in the Rise department, and now into Heaven's Fall. And I do not like this pick by Japan. Oh my goodness.
Oh, but what is a good pick for Japan? What did Japan pick?
I mean, like we said, I think Hybrid 1 was the better pick here, but Heaven's Fall, especially after Break the Silence, you just had a 6-way FC. If we see another 6-way FCs here, which is honestly very, very likely. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Indo would just probably out-accuracy you. This is not the kind of pick you want to make if you're Japan.
Oh my god, this is so tense.
And this song just adds up to the climax. It's so good.
It's another long one as well. 2 minutes and 47 seconds of consistency that they need to be able to hold. Dense LN as well is something that you would think that players are a little bit more comfortable with than the LN1 type of map. In terms of accuracy at least. It is going to come down to whether or not they can hold the combo.
Onta, I'll just ask you one thing. Please check your scroll speed. I assume they were practicing before, so there's no way.
Surely opened a map, in the past few minutes, right?
Right? I want to assume.
Should be fine, surely.
Oh my god. I don't know what's happening. Every time we commentate together, there seems to be an insane match party. I don't know. We should commentate more often, I guess.
Let's go.
Everyone misses on the first no, right?
Yep. 0% for everyone.
I don't even want to talk at this point. I just want to watch.
Okay, here we go. This is Japan's best chance that they're ever going to get in this match to be able to close out the match right now. Indonesia, this is their breakpoint. This is their biggest breakpoint chance as well. And oh my god, look at the initial accuracies. I mean, I know the LN hasn't kicked in just yet, but
After LN1, the odds for Indo are pretty high, but can they hold their ground? If they get a 3-way FC on this, I think they just win this. That's all that matters. They need to combo.
And right now the combo, oh my god, what are these accuracies? We're seeing 99.9 on almost 3 players in the lobby right now still.
And I'm mostly concerned about the transitions here. Going back and forth between density to no density is the hardest part of this map. Because once you can tunnel vision through these patterns, which are for the most part fairly straightforward, you have some hands in between that can trip you off, and that's about it. And I don't see any of these players having much of a difficulty with them. So it's all about transitioning in and out of the streams and into the bursts. And that's the main cream of this map. And right now Japan seems to be the one on the lead, mostly due to Ice Cake and Crew Cake's performances. They are both very well ahead of everyone else in the Indo team. But like I said, you have to be very careful with these transitions. These in and outs are what this map is about, especially at this level when everyone can just accuracy everything.
Ice Cake's score is absurd. That's just crazy accuracy to me. We've seen so far players struggling to get 99.7. That is the lowest score in this lobby right now.
Oh,
Bakasi, big miss there. First one that we're seeing in the last third of the map as well. 99.5% is the accuracy now, and that is also a big ACK lead for Japan. This is their opportunity now.
Oh, this is the golden chance for them. They just need to hold on. There's only a quarter of the song remaining, and there isn't much left on the map. There are some in and outs, but not many of them. I believe there's a couple bursts coming out right now, and that's kind of like the last hope for Indo to recover from this. And I'm looking mostly at 9990, who seems to be spreading his concentration a little bit too. But even still, they are holding their combo, and that's all they need. They don't have to focus on the accuracy anymore. They just need to hold their combo. And Ice Cake is the one to drop the best player on Japan right now, but traded immediately by Nisha Lavrin, and the hopes are vanishing. Indonesia, as much as they tried, as much as they fought, they will not be able to hold their ground on LN2, and it will be the end of them. 6-3. Japan with a double FC will take the game.
Ice Cake had the highest accuracy, just saying, with the miss. 990k with a miss? Man. Oh man, that is a full team 990k score from Japan, but Bad HD player with the MVP performance, it's just not enough here. Japan taking it 6-3, but a very close affair for Indonesia. They are going to be going down into the losers bracket, and Japan is going to be advancing. And you know what? Japan is versing, I believe the opponent next week is going to be USA. I think that's already been decided, hasn't it?
Yep, that is correct. Yep. Oh my god, indeed. This was such an intense match, and had I not need to hold a key of my keyboard to talk, because I'm using push to talk, I'll be clapping, because that was a match